Well, yes, I know I'm just a minute or two behind, but let's see if I'll be able to sit in my seat. I don't think so. Today's intro includes a dance party. My pastor said, make it interesting. Okay, if you don't like a dance party, I don't even want to know you, okay? I don't. Go away. Right? Come on. Okay, I feel better. Happy Monday, everybody. Gotta be into it at this point. Happy to. This is right. Well, sort of. Sort of happy. Sort of happy. Hello, guys. How are ya? Good to be with you all. I'm prepared today, so I'm happy about that. I actually have my answers. And yeah, I'm in a good mood. There was a lot of good things that happened over the weekend, and I want to come back and talk about them because I really try to save this stream for the Constitution class and just a little bit of fun. Because we don't want to be boring around here. We want to be fun. This is a fun place to be. So, we are learning about our history of our government, our laws. If you didn't know, my name is Deanna, and I'm streaming out of Humboldt County about Humboldt County to Humboldt County and anyone else who cares. And I got Chicago on my mind, obviously. So, but we're just going to stick to this for now. But later on, I do have some things I'll talk about at the end of the stream. And I'll give you a little glimmer into what I want to share later on this week. But one thing that was kind of interesting, I talked to Jen, our Wisconsin Jen, and guess who called her out of the blue? You'll never guess. David Snedeker. It's not weird. I'm like, why? Why did he call you? But also, I was watching Power Girl, and she was doing a coverage on Eureka's city council meeting, and she must have gave me about 10 shout outs, and I thanked her. And then she was live Friday, and she was doing a stream with oxygen masks, so I don't know what's going on with her, but you know, it was nice to be able to check in with each other. This is a really hard battle that we're all in, and you know, we do need to have grace for each other that are still breathing and are still in this fight. As far as other people go, yeah, we need grace for them too. But we're gonna be doing a regroup and recap on the whole YouTube community, tribe, family, internet people, who's still in it to win it. And we're not really going to be talking about other channels. That's never been my thing. But we're going to strengthen the things that remain. And we're going to talk about those of us that are still in this fight and what we're doing. And there's a lot of things you guys will be really happy to learn that have been going on when it's quiet. Because sometimes some of us with big mouths who are usually really loud and noisy just need our privacy. Right, Bonnie? Sometimes we just need our privacy. And right now, you know, that's true for me. But I'm here with this study because this is the one thing that makes me feel really like I'm doing something that matters, and I want to learn this. So I did actually prep for this one. I'm 5 minutes in with my ramblings, as typical. But let me just get it up where you can read and follow along with us if you don't have your own kit. We're on session 11. We have 31 sessions to get through. What this is one of the most comprehensive studies of the government that we have and how they put it together and what they hashed out. And it's basically 28 principles of liberty that they hashed out in great detail. When I say hashed out, I mean died for, fought for, bled for, sacrificed for. These men were martyrs in these regards. So I think it's important to know people's stories. And especially now, a lot of people are looking to steal the famous ones and stuff like that. But there are some of us that really appreciate the smaller channels and those of us who don't have a super big following. And it's okay. That's who you really should be getting your news from. Not saying that, I'm just saying you should be getting your news from not from mainstream. I don't care where. Whoever's credible and checking out. There are big channels that are credible, but mostly not so much, you know. You have to really vet your sources. I see there is still a big problem with that for us, that we're not really vetting our sources. At the end of the stream, I'm going to share with you a document, a local document. Well, I don't know how local it is, but we'll see. It's a tax return for Hatcher. It's a tax return for some of these grant monies. Today we're going to be learning about this grant money and this big fight that went on, and the big points about Madison and Jefferson made against the Hamilton's theory of what the general welfare was meant to be. So yeah, if you don't have your own, you just follow along with me. I upload this. Fortunately for me today, I already had these pages uploaded, so that made it easy. So we're going to pick it up on question... Where did my pen change? Is I have blue ink and then it goes to black ink. So 18. Yeah, we're going to be learning about this, more about this general welfare clause. And I think that's really interesting that that whole play was going on. Remember the Hamilton play and everything? But let's hear 14. And I wish I had a pair of glasses, but I think I'm going to have to wing it here. Okay, guys, don't fail me now. 14. Why, blah, blah, blah. Did we do 14 already? We did, I think. We are on, it's 18. Yeah, we're on 18. Give some examples of how the Supreme Court allowed the federal government to exceed its spending authority before 1936. And so let me open up another page. This study's found on standuphumble.news, and then you just go to the Constitution study. And then I'm reading, those are those 28 principles of liberty. This is what our Constitution was founded on. These are what a lawful judge would rule on today, and there are still some. So don't give up and think that they're all crooked and just go along with bad behavior. Because I'm going to share a verse with you at the end of this too that suggests that we don't. Suggests we be lawful. To be ignorant of the true laws is no excuse, brethren. Can you hear me? I got my microphone 1,000 miles away. Let me move it closer. Is this any better? I should have checked the sound first. I got a new box, and I actually even practiced with the piano, you guys, because I wanted to do another stream, a worship stream. And it sounded all right. It sounded pretty good. So I'll bet that's better. But maybe that box was really picking up my voice. It's not like I'm squeaky quiet or anything. Okay, so we read that. Now the examples are going to be on... They're written out here for us. Let's see. Show more. You have to go to show more sometimes. Right before the Butler case. Okay. In 1936, the Supreme Court dodged the issue of interpreting the General Welfare Clause by following the Hamilton theory, but using other provisions in the Constitution to justify its decisions. For example, 1, the power of Congress to appropriate money for the construction of internal improvements, such as railroads, was upheld on the basis of Commerce Clause and the authority to maintain post roads. I should have checked. Can you guys hear me okay? Thank you. Zoom your screen if needed. Okay. Is that zoomed up good? All right. I try to zoom this one pretty wide there. I think that's as much as I can zoom it. Okay. 2, the authority to charter and purchase stock in federal land banks was justified on the basis of necessary governmental fiscal operations and war powers. Wait, let me read that again to you. The authority to charter and purchase stock in federal land banks was justified on the basis of necessary governmental fiscal operations and war powers. 3, in certain cases, the Supreme Court has skirted the whole problem by arrogantly denying the right of either a state or private citizen to use the courts to challenge the unconstitutional appropriation of national funds. 4, an equally serious aberration of the Constitution appears to have occurred in 1896 when common defense and general welfare were used to support a holding that the federal government had a right to acquire land within a state for use as a national park. And this in spite of the declaration in Clause 17 specifying what territory and for what purposes Congress would have authority to occupy state land. Quote, places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings, unquote. And then we're going to get into the next question about the Butler case here. 19, describe the Butler case of 1936 and how the court literally changed its interpretation of general welfare. Okay, I'm just going to read this to you and then we'll see if we need to elaborate at all. Finally, in 1936, the Supreme Court gave its unqualified endorsement to Hamilton's views on the taxing power. Justice Roberts wrote the opinion to settle once for all whether the Jefferson-Madison interpretation or the Hamilton theory should prevail. He stated, Madison asserted it, the Welfare Clause, amounted to no more than a reference to the other powers enumerated in the subsequent clauses of the same section. That, as the United States is a government of limited and enumerated powers, the grant of powers to tax and spend for the general national welfare must be confined to the enumerated legislative fields committed to Congress. Hamilton, on the other hand, maintained the clause confers a power separate and distinct from those later enumerated, is not restricted in meaning by the grant of them, and Congress consequently has a substantive power to tax and to appropriate, limited only by the requirement that it shall be exercised to provide for the general welfare of the United States. While therefore the power to tax is not unlimited, its confines are set in the clause which confers it, and not in those of Section 8, which bestow and define the legislative powers of Congress. We're going to read about that too, or the provision, rather. Now here I like this paragraph right here. This is interesting. The obvious contradiction in the concluding sentence defies a rational explanation. The court admitted that this section defines the enumerated powers to which Congress is restricted, and then turns around and uses the words general welfare to justify expenditures in any field, even though it is not among the enumerated powers. This decision alone was sufficient to literally destroy the whole concept of limited government, exactly as Jefferson and Madison had predicted. Justice Roberts wanted to be sure that there would be no further ground for argument in favor of the Jefferson-Madison view, and therefore stated as a positive judicial mandate that the General Welfare Clause allows Congress to authorize expenditure of public monies for public purposes and is not limited, in all caps, how absurd, by the direct grants of legislative power found in the Constitution. It's a contradiction. The only concession the court would make was the fact that the 10th Amendment would prevent the Congress from invading areas reserved to the states. This modest reservation lasted barely a year when the court overruled itself in the Social Security Act cases. Selling out, slowly over time. Well, slowly and then like a steamroller, baby. Right? Number 22. Oh, no, wait. 21? Oh, 20. Shoot. 20. Cite two landmark decisions by the Supreme Court that were based on the Butler case. So right away you can see the Social Security cases arose out of these circumstances, okay? Some states were taxing employees a certain amount to provide unemployment insurance for their workers. The federal government imposed a similar tax and provided that any employer who had paid the federal unemployment tax could deduct it from whatever amount might be due in the state. This glaring violation of its own ruling the year before in the Butler case became the law, and the state soon found the federal government preempting significant areas of state tax jurisdiction on the grounds that the relief of unemployment was a legitimate object of federal expenditure under the General Welfare Clause. The same reasoning was used to justify the government's collection of funds for old age retirement and formed the basis for a multitude of other social service agencies, which soon followed. Next, withholding federal funds to force state compliance. The next landmark case came in 1947 when the Supreme Court sustained the right to make conditional grants in aid to states and then withhold federal funds as a means of enforcing its will on a protesting state. In the case of Oklahoma versus Civil Service Commission, the state objected to the enforcement of a provision of the Hatch Act whereby its right to receive its share of federal highway funds would be diminished in consequence of its failure to remove from office a member of the State Highway Commission found to have taken an active part in party politics while in office. The court said, while the United States is not concerned with and has no power to regulate local political activities such as state officials, it does have power to fix the terms upon which its money allotments to states shall be dispersed. In other words, what the Constitution forbade the federal government to do directly, the government would achieve indirectly by making the allocations of funds to the state dependent upon compliance to the federal will. You sellouts. You sellouts. It was precisely this kind of legal coercion which Madison had warned against in the case the General Welfare Clause was considered a grant of power instead of a limitation on the power to tax. If you're confused about that, you're an idiot. You think these men and women that supported these men died to have unlimited tax power? Then you are a moron. Madison's warning, because that's going to be into the next question too. What warning did James Madison give regarding the interpretation of the General Welfare Clause? We're going to read this whole thing. Because the Hamilton theory completely wiped out the whole foundation of limited government and the concept of enumerated powers, it is important to turn to the words of James Madison, who captured perhaps better than anyone else the original intent of the General Welfare Clause. Madison delivered a speech on the subject to the First United States Congress. Madison: if Congress can apply money indefinitely to the general welfare and are the sole and supreme judges of the general welfare, then they may take the care of religion into their own hands. They may take into their own hands the education of children, establishing in like manner schools throughout the Union. They may undertake the regulation of all roads other than post roads. In short, everything from the highest object of state legislation down to the most minute object of policy would be thrown under the power of Congress, for every object I have mentioned would admit the application of money and might be called, if Congress pleased, provisions for the general welfare. If the entire concept of a limited government with its delegation of enumerated powers is to have meaning as a substantive part of the Constitution, it may require a constitutional amendment to specifically limit the general welfare clause to the enumerated powers of the government. At this late date, there may be no other way to permanently bridle the usurpation of power by the Supreme Court and Congress. Both have encouraged social welfare legislation to the point where it had much to do with a leap in the federal budget from $6 billion in 1936 to $600 billion in 1980. It should also be pointed out that the founders were strong believers in promoting the social welfare of the needy, but they insisted that this be supervised on the local or state level. Experience has demonstrated the correctness of their view that, if assigned to the federal level, welfare would become impossible to administer fairly, effectively, or economically. It should be recognized that the bloating of the general welfare clause to its present proportions of almost limitless usurpation of governmental authority was not achieved without a fight, or bloodshed, I would add. Constitutionalists, in the tradition of the founders, have fought it for nearly 2 centuries. Man, they stand alone a lot of times too, because the nation is turned into a nation of cowards. I'm sorry to say, but when you look at the real laws and how much you're complying with, I do too. Me. Our ignorance is astounding to me. Just take the right to travel over commercial driving. Just look it up yourself. Look up do not detain videos on YouTube and watch how people that know the laws deal with police officers. For them to turn on the Mars lights to pull you over for a traffic violation is a felony. We're not supposed to be living in terror of these armed police. They used to say to serve and protect on the car, right? Who do they work for anymore? I sure know. Ask me. Go to my BitChute channel. You can see for your own eyes. I don't need to tell you. Figure it out. 24. How did Thomas Jefferson feel about the constitutional provision allowing Congress to create a national debt? Well, he said, never buy anything which you have not the money in your pocket to pay. Not, your credit card, your check, or your bank links up. Never buy anything which you have not money in your pocket to pay for. Be assured that it gives much more pain to the mind to be in debt than to do without any article whatever which we may seem to want. Public debt should not be passed from one generation to another. There's so much good stuff here, but I basically answered the questions, and I wish I could, I could talk about this a good long while, but we're living it, aren't we? I feel like we're living it. I feel like, do we got to really read that much more about it? Let me show you something real quick here. That is where we went wrong. And there's some other places where we went wrong too. Where is everybody? What's everybody doing after 3.5 years? That's another place we went wrong. Where's everybody? There's like 4 other people I know out of this whole YouTube community that gets on the assembly calls, that goes to their city council meetings. But you know what? You ladies are, and men, I know some good guys too. So there's 5 or 6. Used to call them constitutionalists. I'd say we're more historians. The more you know your history, the more you know your laws. Here's the verse that my pastor gave yesterday, and I was like, oh yeah, like that. 2 Peter 3:17. Let's look this one up. Because you know what? I love the law. I love God's law, and I love our country's law, because it's the only place where I feel safe. I have security in both. My man is a God-fearing man. He is never going to treat me bad because he loves God first. And that's the point. And I ain't never going to treat him wrong because I love God first. I vowed to him I don't care how crazy he is. He's mine. And y'all know I'm crazy and I'm his. And that's the way it's going to be till death do us part. Because we made a vow to each other. And we took it serious. But, I know it doesn't work out forever. I'm not trying to, guilt anybody. But it's like, this world, I thought about that slogan, loyalty has its reward. No, loyalty is the reward. We have a loyal and faithful God. And he creates and makes loyal and faithful people with his Holy Spirit. You can't do it in your own power. We're not going to be able to do anything in our own human strength that will really bring us out ahead of what we're fighting against. This is a spiritual battle. These people are demonic. They're satanic. Some of them don't even know who they serve. 2 Peter 3:17, therefore, dear friends, since you have been forewarned, be on your guard so that you may be not carried away by the error of the lawless and fall from your secure position, but grow in the grace and knowledge of our Lord Jesus, Savior Jesus Christ. To him be the glory both now and forevermore. And I'm sure there are some that would say, that has nothing to do with laws. Our laws are godly. Our laws they're the only other laws that were the same as what we have as a constitutional government was from the Anglo-Saxons that came out of the Black Sea and Moses's laws. It was given in Exodus and Deuteronomy. And it's great because before that, one man was judging everything, and it really shows the foundation of, his what was it? It was his Moses's nephew, Jethro, right? Jethro, who comes along. What is this thing you're doing? You judge the people day by day? Every day he'd sit there and listen to people's complaining. Every day. Jethro saw Moses judging the people. He asked, why are you doing this? Why are you the only judge? And why do people come to you all day? Then Moses said to his father-in-law, it was his father-in-law, the people come to me and ask me to ask for God's decision for their problem. If people have an argument, they come to me and I decide which person is right. In this way I teach the people God's laws and teachings. But Moses' father-in-law said to him, this isn't right the way you do this. It's too much work for you to do this alone. You cannot do this job yourself. It wears you out, and it makes the people tired too. Now, listen. Listen to me. Let me give you some advice. You can just hear this guy, right? Listen to me, son. And I pray, God be with you. You should continue listening to, this is all paraphrase, okay? But this is the gist of the story. I know the story. This is the form of the first government in the Bible, okay? This is how it happened. You should continue to speak to God about these things. You should explain God's laws and teachings to the people. Warn them not to break the laws. Tell them right away to live and what they should do. But you should also choose some of the people to be judges and leaders. Choose good men you can trust, men who respect God. Choose men who will not change their decisions for money. Make these men rulers over the people. There should be rulers over 1,000 people, 100 people, 50 people, and even over 10 people. Let these rulers judge the people. If there is a very important case, then they can come to you and let you decide what to do. But they can decide the other cases themselves. In this way, these men will share your work with you, and it will be easier for you to lead the people. If you do this as God directs you, then you will be able to do your job without tiring yourself out. And the people can still have all their problems solved before they return home. So Moses did what Jethro told them. And you can see the governments being set up, and it says, and he put this many over this many, and that many over that many. I mean, that's the ancient principles. I certainly knew, knew about this a lot more than I know my own constitutional setup. So that's why I'm doing this class. And, I wasn't even sharing it. Darn it. I wanted you to see it. There it is. Take that paragraph and read it later, if you can. Hey, Carl. Good to see you. I mean, I love the law. And where else can we go? When you've got everybody on different pages, I say don't be led away by things that aren't lawful in both secular and spiritual realm, right? We've got two sets of laws here. The greatest thing about our spiritual laws is Jesus put it this way: there's only two commandments left. Love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. All the others laws fall under those. If you're loving God first yourself, you're going to be good to your spouse. You're going to be good to your kids. You're going to be good to your family. So I don't know. I just love this study. I'm learning so much. I see so many similarities. Every time I'm reading and learning about it, it's like, wow. Oh, one more thing I want to share with you. I promised to share, but I do want to come back and talk about this another time, is this grant that is public knowledge. Clearly it's from Hatchers, whoever's, gleaning the money. And I'm not going to reveal my source yet because I have not heard back from this person. But I said, oh, can I share this? And obviously I can share it. It's public knowledge. But I didn't want to share who it's from. But we just learned all about grants. Excuse me. We just learned all about grants and stuff. Let me see if I can blow this up. Let's see. Here's your Hatcher, Humboldt County. Here's your $9.90 for Hatcher. For all those needles and all those drug addicts all over the streets. This is a 501(c)(3). I don't know who Jasmine Guerrera is, but she making some money. Whoo-wee! Is she making some money? Contributions and grants, $588,000. I don't even hardly know how to read all this, really. It's a CPA. It's an accountant's firm and someone in Diamond Springs. And then you go down here more. There's more money. There's $1,500,000 somewhere here. There's 6 names here. Jasmine Guerrera, Lasara Firefox Allen, Sarah Kerr, Ashley Cruz, Jarrett Nicholson, Glenn Hayes, Jessica Smith, Tom Ewings. They probably all had part to do in the writing of the grant, right? Shouldn't we know how to read these things? And shouldn't we know where every penny of this money is going? Because down here, there we go. Total revenue, $588,000. Somehow they got that much. But then when you keep going and we add it up in the big numbers at the bottom, we're getting to a mill here. Gifts, grants, contributions, and membership fees received do not include any unusual grants. These are all the years. Okay, so we've jumped. In 2019, they got $130,000 for this program. In 2020, they got $588,000, and now they're at $1 million for the needles. And it says public support. Yeah, we all want needles all over Humboldt County, don't we? And someone to be pocketing a good $1 million. How much do you think it costs them to give needles outside of a van? You think it costs them $1,500,000? We got a problem. The problem is we're not vetting still. We're not vetting our sources. We're not vetting these grants that are always coming with strings. And the strings are always there to take our rights away. And these people sit there in those city council and board of supervisor meetings and have the nerve to talk to us about what the state wants. You are all whores. You're sellouts. You make me sick. You're fake. You're central casting. I'll be back later to talk about that. I better get off right now. But believe me, it's coming. The receipts are pouring out. You guys don't stand a chance. There's nowhere for you to run. There's nowhere for you to hide. It's happening all over. Exposure, disclosure, spotlight, magnifying glass, all on you criminals. I don't know how you sleep at night. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful time to be alive. I'm loving it. I can't wait to come back and share some more truth bombs with you. And hopefully we'll have the whole crew up and we can just share. What I want to do is share all of our sources. Who are we still listening to? We're not going to talk bad about anybody we're not listening to anymore. And we're going to have grace in my room for anybody who is still in this fight, period. Okay? And there's a lot to say. I want to break out an old notebook that when I left that first stand-up Humboldt meeting, I don't know if you guys remember, but oh my gosh, I had like 12 topics that I was like, it was the first time I was in a room with a bunch of truthers. And they were talking all this crazy stuff. And I was like, I don't know if this is the right place for me. Amy Gunderson, you were the one that freaked me out the most. You with your 5G stuff. Turned out she was right. She was right about the movie Contagion. She was right to get her family the heck out of California and get out of here. You know, I mean, you guys, in the last 28 years, I must know 100 families that have fled here. And if I could, I would, but I'm stuck here. So this is the hill I'm going to die on. This is the hill I'm fighting from. And the whole state deserves it. There's some big fighters getting bred in this state. You want to treat us like we're communists? Oh, hell no. Look out. Let me show you what's up. I ain't complied. I ain't never going to comply. It ain't over yet. It ain't over yet, right? All right, I love you guys. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for all your support. Let's show some grace to the fighters. Let's get together later. Bring your best sources and videos, because I'm going to stream later on sometime. And I have some things to share. Echo, I got some of those videos that she shared with me. We got some things that would not be, we can't really keep on YouTube. I'll roll it on YouTube. Yeah, later. We'll do it later, and then we'll take it off, but it'll stay on Rumble. So those are the kind of streams I want to do. I don't feel like coming here and being strapped by YouTube. Nah, I'm sick of them. They sent me a nasty message over the weekend. You lost some features to your channel because your information is not positive. Oh, well, when it gets better and when it gets more positive in California and Humboldt County, then maybe I could turn it around. Until then, you get what you get and you don't have a fit. All right, I love you all. Peace out. Godspeed, warriors. Keep fighting the good fight. I love you all.